Hi, I'm Toby Kvalevog with Leisure Outdoor Adventures, bringing you a tip here that I live by every day as a guy who's on the water literally every day of the summer here in Minnesota. Two things. One, the weather. What's the forecast going to be for tomorrow? What's the wind direction going to be? What are the temps? When's the warm water going to be? When's the cold water going to be? These are all important variables when it comes to fishing. Wind direction. Wind direction puts all the plankton and bait in certain locations. Good idea to start your fishing there on a certain day. If you're chasing muskies and it's been cold, you're going to want to find the warmest part of the day. When the water warms up, fish are going to be most active. Right? So weather is very important. And of course, if you're guiding, you want to make sure you're off the lake by the time the storm and the lightning hits too. Now, another thing that's very important is your moon phase, your fishing game calendar, very important. You have majors and you have minors. When the moon's rising, when the moon's overhead, when the moon's setting, and when the moon's underneath, that's 4 periods in a day. Those are majors and minors. If you're fishing a tournament or just trying to get out and get the best bite of the day, try to plan your day, weather permitting, on the best bite. And the best bite, those moon calendars are pretty available online and they're very accurate. You can type in your zip code and get a very accurate time when you can go out during the daylight or overnight and be on the best bite. And that's when the biggest fish have a tendency to bite, like a muskie or the biggest walleyes in a school. They have a tendency to feed during those peak fishing times. So tune into the weather, tune into the moon phase, and tune into your next big bite.
You know, I look at the weather a lot, and what I look for is wind. And if I'm going to be on a large body of water, I'll access from the shoreline when I'm guiding with my clients so I don't have to beat them up going across the lake. I have a big boat that I can go through just about anything, but if it's really bad, you want to be near shore. Where can I possibly have the best chance to catch fish on high wind days? If it's going to be calm, well, that's a different story. Then you got to look to a lake that might have a deeper bite, darker water, or weeds. You got to get to the weeds because the fish will be more natural and more aggressive in weeds. If it's a high pressure day, you're going to grab fish. They're going to be tough to bite. So I'll bring, if you're using minnows, smaller minnows along with some bigger ones, leeches, and I don't have giant leeches on those days. I like to use mediums, even panfish leeches on small jigs, 16th ounce tungsten jigs. If the weather's going to be low pressure, those are really tough days. I'll go with a plain hook when I'm using a leech, and we'll do more of a drag if we're jigging. If we're rigging, we're just going to have a lively bait on there. But most of the time, I'm bobber fishing, jigging, and sometimes rigging. So on the bobber, you just lighten things up. I've gone to 6-pound test, and I never use 6-pound test in my area. Works great. And there's times when I've had to use 8 or 10-pound fluorocarbon leader on my stuff just because you get a lot of fish, a lot of bites, and you want to get your lure back from a northern. So the real thing is remember, when weather's low, you don't see the fish, and if you do find them, they're going to be real tentative. Don't set the hook. If you're bobber fishing or jig fishing, you reel till the line gets tight and then bring it up. And on real low pressure days or high pressure days, the fish are going to fall off by the boat. These are not days you're going to rip puppet minnows or zing spoons at them or get an instinctive reactive strike. Sometimes you get a few, but most of your fish are going to come in kind of a deadpan kind of way using bobbers, light jigs. And you don't want your jig to be so heavy you drag into snags if you're fishing rock piles. So a key thing is if the weather's stable, barometer stable, then you have good, if you follow the moon table, sun table, and you have a percentage, if the percentage is good there, it doesn't matter if the barometric pressure is too high or too low. A stable pressure and a good sun and moon phase, you're gonna absolutely kill the fish. And so you wanna go even heavier in areas where you do 16th to 8th ounce. You're going to use quarters, even 3/8, because I want it to fall fast when I'm live bait rigging. And plastics are going to be fun. You're going to put paddle tails. You can size them up to get more strikes. But when it's really, really tentative, small like the eye candy grub or the jig worm is going to make a big difference. And I always load up on leeches. Every day I leave with leeches. Some days I leave the minnows at home, but now the minnows are a big player. We're starting to get into those cold morning, hot, flat, sunny days, and it gets real tentative. And I'm picking up crappie minnows, fatheads, and shiners because that is your best asset. Instead of sitting on a lake and not catching fish, watch the weather. If it's not going to be stable, and with steady winds and stable from the southwest wind, stable barometer, we are going to catch so many fish. I'm going to have the clicker going.
So out here, you know, this Grand Rapids, Minnesota area, I'm out here guiding all the time, and one thing that's always in question for the day coming is, what's the weather doing? I check a variety of different apps on my phone. I have Weather Channel, AccuWeather, and then a wind app called SailFlow. And I kind of, you take for granted what they say. You take it with a grain of salt because it's never exactly what it should be or what it says it's going to be. So I kind of just average all the information in those apps together and come up with a plan for the next day. If I'm seeing light and variable wind on 3 different apps, SailFlow is not telling me I have any gusts. Basically, I'm gonna plan on fishing a little deep. A lot of these area lakes are clear, so there's a lot of spooky fish. I'm gonna want to go deep so I can get clients over the top of fish without them spooking. I kind of let the weather determine where I'm gonna fish for the next day. With that being said, if it's calm, there's not a lot of deep fish to be found, then maybe casting is going to be my go-to. So I want to know that coming into the day, whether it's going to be windy, if I'm going to be checking wind-blowing shores or wind-blowing points, or if it's going to be flat calm and I'm going to have to cast to those fish or go deep. So that's my advice is take a few different apps on your phone. You can download so many different weather apps. Take a few of them, average them out, and come up with a conclusion about what the weather might do the next day. Always be prepared, have a backup plan, but that's what I do is average everything out, and you'll be better suited for what's to come the next day.
So as a fishing guide, there's a little more to it rather than just hopping in the boat and going fishing that day. A lot of times the night before, I'll make contact with my customers. One of the first things I'm doing is what's the weather going to be the next day? Is the wind going to blow? Is it going to be sunny? Is it going to be cloudy? If it's super windy, Leech Lake is a big lake. You might have to limit your areas on where you even want to travel to because it'll take a large amount of time. Bright, sunny, clear days, we're probably going to be a little more aggressive with fish when we fish them. Jig and wraps, some kind of glide baits, something that's a little more active than just putting it on a fish and letting it sit there. Today we've got pretty much overcast skies and not a lot of wind. That would probably be a good day to just have a small leech just dangled in front of a fish and just let it sit there until that fish actually commits to that bait. So weather, wind, all of that has a huge impact on how we fish on this lake.